Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're zooming in on a pretty fascinating shift happening in the blockchain world. We're looking at XPR Network. Our source material suggests it's gone through this massive transformation. So our job here is to kind of cut through the noise, get to what's really going on, and unpack what this means for you, whether you're building, investing, or just keeping an eye on digital finance. And look, this isn't just some tech update we're talking about. It's really a window into how blockchain itself is, adapting to what the real world needs: speed, security, and maybe most importantly, compliance. We're going to dig into the why behind this big move and what new capabilities it actually unlocks.
Indeed. And what's really interesting here, I think, is how XPR isn't just tweaking things. They're integrating completely with another pretty powerful platform. It's all about tackling those big demands: scalability, speed, and crucially, being ready for regulation. Okay, let's get into it.
Right. So let's start big picture. XPR Network makes this really bold move, not just an update, they're calling it a complete transformation. What was the driving force? What was the problem or the bottleneck that needed such a fundamental change?
Yeah, that's a really good question because, established networks don't just rip things up and start again lightly. The material we have is pretty clear. The blockchain space is moving fast, it's maturing, and with that comes this growing demand for platforms that are, yes, faster, but also much more interoperable, and maybe the biggest piece, regulatory compliant. Ready for the real world. XPR basically realized they needed a much stronger, more compliant base if they wanted to break into, say, mainstream finance. They needed that solid foundation.
Okay, a solid foundation. And that foundation, that's Metal blockchain, right?
Yeah.
Developed by Metallicus.
Exactly.
So Metallicus has been building this specific infrastructure, secure, scalable, for finance in Web3.
Yeah.
And XPR is now, plugging into that or rebuilding on it.
It seems like they're essentially rebuilding on it, leveraging that whole infrastructure.
Got it. Okay, so we understand the why. Let's get into the nuts and bolts now. What specific, maybe even game-changing capabilities does XPR actually get from this integration with Metal blockchain? This is where it sounds like it gets really interesting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that just jumps off the page is the speed. XPR Network gets 360 times faster finality. That's huge.
360x.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what that translates to is transactions finalizing in under 1 second.
Under 1 second.
It's not just a little faster. Think about what that means for, big institutional payments moving across borders, settling millions potentially in less than a second. That just removes so much friction. It changes how you think about liquidity, about trust.
Okay, under 1 second is... yeah, that's almost instant. What's the tech behind that? What makes that speed and security possible? It must be something pretty innovative, right?
It is. It's called the Snowman consensus.
Snowman consensus. Okay.
Yeah, so for our listeners, this is built on Avalanche's core tech, but Metallicus has enhanced it further. It's a type of consensus mechanism based on gossiping.
Gossiping.
Well, kind of. Instead of every single node needing to agree on every transaction, which slows things down, it uses this really rapid subsampled voting. Basically, nodes quickly ask a small random sample of other nodes. It spreads information incredibly fast. This allows for that super fast finality, and it stays secure even if the network gets really busy. It's a big step up from older models.
Interesting. Okay, speed and security covered, but scalability. That's always the elephant in the room for blockchain, isn't it?
Yeah.
How does this integration tackle that?
Right. And this is where Metal blockchain's infrastructure, particularly its subnet architecture, really comes into play.
Subnets. Okay. What are those exactly?
Think of them like custom-built blockchains, like specialized sidechains that connect back to the main Metal chain. This lets XPR scale horizontally. Meaning they can spin up separate, dedicated chains for different things. So you could have one subnet just for, say, tokenized real estate with its own rules, another one for compliant institutional finance, maybe even one for gaming. Each operates independently so they don't clog up the main network. It's designed for, massive diversified growth.
Wow. Okay. So custom chains, horizontal scaling. That sounds like a ton of flexibility. What about connecting outwards? Talking to other blockchains, other ecosystems, that's historically been tough.
Yeah, and that leads right into the interoperability by design aspect of Metal blockchain.
Yeah.
Cross-chain communication isn't something they tacked on later. It's fundamental to how it's built. Baked in from the start.
Baked in.
So XPR can now interact much more easily with other networks. If you think bigger picture, it's about breaking down those walls, those silos that have kind of fragmented the blockchain world, making assets and data flow more freely.
Makes sense. Okay, and the last big piece, maybe the most critical for real-world use, especially in finance, compliance and identity. How does Metal blockchain help XPR there?
This is huge, especially for getting banks, institutions, enterprises on board. XPR now exists on a chain that has built-in support for things like on-chain Know Your Customer or KYC.
KYC directly on the blockchain.
Right, exactly. Verifying identity right there, which is crucial for meeting regulations. And also things like single sign-on, SSO.
Right, like logging into different services with one verified ID.
Precisely. And it provides a whole suite of regulatory tools as well. This is a big shift from just managing identity off-chain. The source material calls it essential for real-world financial adoption. Now, some people in crypto might worry about, too much centralization or loss of anonymity with deep KYC, but the approach here seems to be about balancing that need for compliance with keeping identity verifiable, but also encrypted and user-controlled, finding that Web3 balance.
That's a critical point. Okay, so we've seen these incredible technical upgrades. Let's pull back a bit. What does this actually mean for the XPR ecosystem? How does this transformation position XPR out there in the wider Web3 world, especially thinking about mainstream users?
Well, it profoundly changes XPR's position. It becomes what the material describes as a true layer 1 blockchain.
A layer 1, meaning it's its own foundational network now.
Exactly. It's not relying on another chain for its core functions anymore. It controls its own security, its rules, its scaling. That makes it much more robust, more self-sufficient. It's built for performance and compliance now. And it also makes XPR a key player in this wider multi-chain financial ecosystem that Metal blockchain is powering. So it's a really significant shift. It feels like it's gearing up not just for developers or crypto-native users, but for serious enterprise adoption too.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's building those bridges to the mainstream. And what about the token holders? People holding XPR or Metal, what's the tangible impact for them in this new era?
Right, the source says they're entering a new era. And I think for holders, it's not just about the tech, it's about what that tech enables. It opens the door to potentially whole new use cases, maybe new revenue streams. Think about it with that speed and compliance. Could XPR become the network for, say, tokenized real estate, where you need instant compliant ownership transfer?
Okay. Real-world assets.
Exactly. Or maybe Metal could power new kinds of compliant DeFi products, things that just weren't possible before because the compliance piece wasn't there. Stuff that bridges traditional finance with decentralized tech. So it's really about expanding the utility, the real-world application of these tokens. That should, in theory, impact their value and role.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. This whole deep dive, it really paints a picture of a network getting ready. Not just preparing for the future, but actively trying to build it. Seems like whether you're a dev, an institution minting assets, or running a validator node, the message is that the new XPR network is, well, ready for prime time.
I think that's the takeaway. It brings that vision, secure, fast, compliant blockchain into reality, using Metal blockchain as the engine. And like you said, it's more than just a speed boost. The material calls it a foundational shift. That word foundational really stresses that the underlying structure, the architecture, has been rebuilt for what comes next in Web3. And what's really exciting isn't just faster payments, it's enabling totally new types of Web3 applications. Things like those compliant DeFi protocols that know who the user is in a secure way, or enterprise solutions on those custom subnets for really specific industry problems. These things felt kind of aspirational before, but now they seem much more tangible for people building on XPR.
Right. So we really unpacked how this XPR network integration with Metal blockchain isn't just an upgrade. It feels like a genuine transformation from that incredible speed, the Snowman consensus, the scalable subnets, the built-in interoperability, and that critical regulatory and identity piece. It's all clearly aimed at positioning XPR for, serious adoption, real-world use.
Definitely. And looking at this source material, it really underscores how dynamic this whole blockchain space is, constantly evolving. It makes you think, doesn't it, about how crucial these kinds of deep foundational changes are, how they're needed for these digital technologies to actually jump from being niche, cool tech to becoming, widely used, trusted, compliant financial infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're listening and thinking about this transformation, what really stands out to you? How essential do you think speed, compliance, and interoperability truly are for this next wave of Web3? And maybe think about how similar big foundational shifts might reshape other digital areas we rely on, maybe even outside of finance. Something to chew on. Thanks for diving deep with us today. Until next time, keep exploring.